aka Patters. Welcome to episode 497. It's still Saturday. It's October 1st. I'm a day behind everything. I'm going crazy, but you're here with me. You and me, we are here to talk about movies. We're talking about some of the filmmakers I feel like are the greatest, are the most impactful, are the best of our era. You and me, our era. We ain't talking about Charlie Chaplin and the silent films, but we could. Or Alfred Hitchcock. We're talking Martin Scorsese, and I am your host, AKAPAD's Audio Audacity Podcast. This is what is ringing through your eardrums right now, and I thank you so much for joining me. I am nothing but grateful for all of your support as we race towards episode 500, going into the 31 Days of Dread, and holy crap, I just spent the whole morning at the drawing table watching The Batman. And Matt Reeves is, the music alone, it's mesmerizing. Visually, it's hard to look away from this movie. It's very much like Seven. It really is. Just on the way that the detectives, basically Batman and Commissioner Gordon, are approaching the serial killer or the Riddler. It's interesting, and it's a nod, and it is a love letter, and this is a little bit a part of these like discussions, because we have Matt Reeves, modern day master, emulating, saying thank you, saying hello to another modern master, David Fincher, who is way overdue for a few Oscars. Let's be honest. He should have really got for a Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Or Social Network. Because Social Network is just, it's insane. It's insane that movie is so boiled down and perfect. We're talking Martin Scorsese and leading into David Fincher and Matt Reeves. I feel like those two guys, so movies that are still relevant today, like every single movie that both of those guys touch, almost everything that Martin Scorsese touched is even relevant today. I'm just saying relevant a lot. But these guys that are in the mix today are inspired by Martin Scorsese or Scorsese. But he's still making movies. And, he's making movies all the way to an Oscar run with The Irishman 2019. Also should have been Best Picture. There's a few movies I haven't seen from our boy over here. And we're going to get into them. He's from the 70s generation. Brian De Palma, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, John Millen. It's amazing. Or John Milius, I'm sorry. Let's get into it, though. 1967, Who's Knocking at My Door? This movie, I bought this movie from Suncoast. I think it was like $40 at the time. Had to see it. Because what Martin Scorsese has become, he's conquered his very own generation. You at one point you thought guys like Brian De Palma, because him making like what would be at the time his first like true mainstream movie with Mission Impossible, the first one with Tom Cruise, you would think like he had arrived, but then he comes out with this Snake Eyes, and his career really never recovered from that Nicolas Cage flick. Real-time thriller, by the way. That movie shot in real time, takes place in real time. It's amazing. But Martin Scorsese conquered everyone around him. 1972, so 5 years later, Boxcar Bertha. I haven't seen, sorry. 1973, Mean Streets. Harvey Keitel, amazing. Gritty movie. It is a predecessor to Taxi Driver. 1974, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. One of the emotion, there's just a emotion that bleeds throughout this movie. And I say bleeds because it gets into crevices it's not supposed to. There you go. That's a good critic line. 1976. This is, oh my God, even with the Joker just coming out, the Joker emulates Taxi Driver. I don't see it. A lot of people do, but I really don't. Taxi Driver is as relevant today as it was in 1976. 1977, New York, Robert De Niro is back. not too much to say about New York, New York. Just moving on. 1980, we have Oscars, we have black and white movie, we have one of the great sports movies, one of the great boxing movies. You know it, Raging Bull. 1982, more Robert De Niro, the king of comedy. This is Robert De Niro nailed down an awkwardness in this role. And I want to say Scorsese identified it and was able to not only give a definition of a fading career path or the weirdness of young entertainment, young Hollywood, aging entertainment, aging Hollywood, of a passing of the torch, of someone nipping at the bit. The king of comedy, anyone that makes a movie about a stalker or someone that, again, is just socially awkward and they put themselves in situations that they're not supposed to be in, they go to king of comedy as a template. What Robert De Niro did with this role echoes throughout his entire career, because there's like a sternness and then there's like a desperation, and that is in so many of his roles. I feel like that's a little bit of his personality also. 1985, neo-noir. We talked about this not too long ago. After Hours. Just gotta watch it, gotta love it. 1986, one of the best sequels of all time. Sequel to The Hustler. Tom Cruise, Paul Newman, The Color of Money. The soundtrack, I own the vinyl for this movie. The vinyl soundtrack. I listen to it all the time. 1988, one of the ballsiest, most controversial movies. I've only seen this movie 3 times. The Last Temptation of Christ, William Dafoe. This movie shook the world, and rightfully so. Now, it's also made by a devout Catholic, I believe Scorsese is. Italian devout Catholic. He's all those stereotypes, but he makes this movie that challenges where we are as a culture, as a society, as an audience member. This movie is ballsy, and rightfully so. I don't think he's made any wrong choices with The Last Temptation of Christ. It's one of the best biblical movies that we have. 1990, what many consider the second or greatest gangster movie of all time, Goodfellas. I don't consider Goodfellas as good as Casino in 95, but we'll get to that. Cape Fear, 1991, another neo-noir movie, one of the best remakes of all time. Nick Nolte, more Robert De Niro, you can argue his best freaking role. 1993, Daniel Day-Lewis, Michelle Pfeiffer, The Age of Innocence. There was a lot of this around the time of The Last Emperor, a lot of these period, Barry Lyndon, like movies. Again, it's a filmmaker's playground. Go with it. I can't address the plot. I've seen this movie maybe one time. Don't recall it. Didn't hate it. Like the movie. Just don't recall plot points. Then here we go. 1995. I remember seeing this movie with my buddy Rob. Casino. Casino is the opus to Goodfellas. It's longer, more dynamic, more complex. There's more at stake. It's a bigger situation and is more frustrating to watch, especially the downfall of Joe Pesci. We watch these gangster movies for the downfall of Joe Pesci. 1997 movie I do not recall, but getting back to The Last Emperor, we also had 7 years in Tibet around this time, and then we have Kundun. Can't talk about this movie at all. 1999, again, always landing on 1999. Bringing Out the Dead, Nicolas Cage. This is his most experimental movie. I believe a lot of this movie, he's inspired by Oliver Stone. This movie is a tour de force. This movie is it's art. And it's probably his most artistic movie. 2002. This is now what I would consider the modern day run. There's nothing bad. All of these are masterpieces. One is built on top of the other. Let me just go through the list. 2002, Gangs of New York. 2004, The Aviator. 2006, The Departed. 2010, Shutter Island. 2011, Hugo. 2013, The Wolf of Wall Street. 2016, Silence, 2019, The Irishman. If any of these you have not seen, watch them in the order I just dictated. Watch them by their release. Gangs in New York. It's his very heritage. It's the birthplace of really democracy in the U.S. New York City, the 5 points of New York City. Was I disappointed a little bit with this ending? I was, but at the same time, the point of this movie, it's that there's bigger things at play than tiny squabbles, and your squabble means nothing. And I don't know why, but it now fits and it now works, and I love it. Probably a little bit of an aftermath of the George Floyd riots here in Philly, to be honest. The Aviator, I was just watching this the other day. It's always on, always playing. Got me more obsessed with Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes is one of my idols. I love you so much, Howard. R.I.P. Live forever. The Departed. Another remake, boiled down version of Internal Affairs. The Departed it's also similarly metaphor to Black Mass with Mickey Spillane, right? No, it's a Boston criminal guy. I'm forgetting his name, but Jack Nicholson plays him. Johnny Depp played him for Black Mass. Mickey. Oh my God, I cannot remember. So sue me. The Departed is worth all the accolades. It didn't get enough accolades. Didn't get enough awards. That movie changed everything. Also, a great gangster movie. Then we have Shutter Island, one of the great surreal gotcha movies. Best thing, again, more collaborations with Leo. His fourth movie in a row collaborating with Leo. Hugo. This is a hugely overlooked, underrated, Oscar nominated. Even though, I believe the Oscars were nominating 10 movies at this time. Hugo it's whimsy, and he nails whimsy. To contrast Hugo with Steven Spielberg's BFG, and you will see the difference. Scorsese is a true genius and student of film. He's as much of an encyclopedia as Quentin Tarantino. When you have that much in your head, it also translates to how much you can share, how much you can access. You're almost like a computer. Hugo is a definition of that. Wolf of Wall Street, Leo's maybe his best performance, maybe, I don't know. He's so good in Aviator. Wolf of Wall Street would be his second best performance. Third best would be Basketball Diaries. Silence. Everyone was silent on this movie. Should have had another Oscar run. This movie just reminds me of Robert De Niro's The Mission. But this movie is tough. It's tough. It really is. It's worth every single scene you see it in. Also, big shout out to Andrew Garfield. Heartbreak Ridge was also around this time with Mel Gibson. Statement level movies. That's all I'll say. And The Irishman is really what I felt like maybe the best movie of 2019. If not, it really deserved the Oscar. Should have got more. We're dealing with a little bit of the progressive nature of the Oscars now, so a lot of these movies will get overlooked. Even though, if you watch, if I was reading Bobby Kennedy's biography, and the way how they speak about how the Irish came over here on their boats, scary, kind of equal to other moments in his history that are more on the lips and tongues of us. Meaning the Irish had it so bad, they really did. But and it's just meaning I guess the point I'm getting at is if you're going to be progressive, you have to honor the plight of the Irish. You really do. Anyway, in 2023, Killers of the Flower Moon, and this looks like it's from Paramount Pictures, but it's going to be an Apple Plus TV, so because I'm going to have to get Apple Plus next year. But everyone, Martin Scorsese, or Scorsese, as a lot of people like to say. Now, should we go into... I don't know awards nominations. Combined, he's got 91 Academy Award nominations and 20 wins. Jeez. Aviator, 11. Hugo, 11. The Departed, 5. The Wolf of Wall Street, 5. Irishman, 10. Raging Bull, 8. I mean, it's nearly every single movie, at least one nomination. The only movies he's made that hasn't no nominations is After Hours, The King of Comedy, and New York, New York. Unbelievable. I mean, that says it all. So next up, this is who I consider is, if there's a two-headed dragon for separate reasons, for the two greats ever, it's going to be our next one. 498 will bring us Ridley Scott. And then we're going to reveal who I feel is the greatest filmmaker of all time. I'm kind of like boiling it down to this. You know, like if maybe Four-Headed Dragon. I would bounce Steven Spielberg at this point for Bobby Fosse. Sorry, Steven. I know you listen to this. But anyway, everyone, rock and roll. I love you. Next episode, 498. Let's go.